Hello all, welcome to another session of Management Principles and Applications, and today we are going to cover decision making. Under decision making, we would be seeing in three circumstances we can take decisions, and that is certainty, risk and uncertainty. Then we'll compare individual and group decision making, and then we would see that what are various techniques under group decision making and what are decision making models. So let's start. Decision making conditions. What are those? So there can be certainty, there can be risk, and there can be uncertainty. So from certainty to uncertainty, the level of ambiguity increases. So what is the difference between risk and uncertainty? Let us understand that. Risk is something which you know and you can calculate it, that yes, you can take risk. So you can maybe assign probabilities to it. Whereas uncertainty is something of, let's say, a fan falling from the ceiling. So that's completely uncertain. That has not happened and you cannot even assign probabilities to it. So in case of decision making under uncertainty, it becomes very difficult for the managers to decide. And there are certain techniques that the management experts have been recommending in certain situations. So types of decision making environments, like I told you, the first one, under certainty, in which the decision maker knows with certainty the consequences of every alternative or decision choice. So in certainty, you know that these are the alternatives and you can get the outcomes like that. But in decision making under uncertainty, the decision maker does not know the probabilities. And decision making under risk, the decision maker knows the probabilities of the various outcomes. That's the difference between these three environments. Decision making under certainty. A condition of certainty exists when the decision maker knows with reasonable certainty that the alternatives are, what conditions are associated with each alternative, and the outcome of each alternative. Under conditions of certainty, accurate, measurable and reliable information on which to base decisions is available. So it's completely accurate information that is available. For example, let us say we have a question like a company produces two different auto parts A and B. So part A or B requires 2 hours of grinding, 2 hours or 4 hours of finishing with respect to A and B. The company has 2 grinders and 3 finishers, each of which works 40 hours per week. Each part A or B brings a profit of $3 or $4. How many items of each part should be manufactured per week? This is a simple typical question of linear programming. So generally the decision making under certainty and such decision problems can be solved by linear or integer programming techniques. So that is fairly simple. But decision making under risk, now you will have to find out the probabilities related to the various options available. So when a manager lacks perfect information or whenever an information asymmetry exists, risk arises. Under a state of risk, the decision maker has incomplete information about available alternatives but has a good idea of the probability of outcomes for each alternative. While making decisions under a state of risk, managers must determine the probability associated with each alternative on the basis of available information and his experience. So it is when there are several possible natures and all the probabilities. So something like first state of nature into the probability of first nature. So let us say buying A. What is the risk involved? It is, let's say, okay, so there are, let us say, 3 business environments, right? In one business environment is favorable, the second is neutral, and the third is unfavorable. So favorable environment, payoff in favorable environment. Probability of favorable environment in the next year is, let us say, 50%, so 0.5. Then payoff of second state of nature, second was neutral, that it is neither good for business nor bad for business, but the probability of the second state of nature is 20%, so 0.2 probability you would assign, so you'll multiply it by 0.2. And then the last one, unfavorable, so there are 30% chances that the environment would be unfavorable for the company, and hence we assign it probability of 0.3, and this way we would find out the expected monetary value. So what is the payoff in favorable environment into 0.5 plus what is the payoff under neutral environment multiplied by 0.2, and what is the payoff of unfavorable environment multiplied by 0.3 will give us how much a company is going to have the payoff of in the three, it is sort of weighted average of 3 circumstances or 3 environments which the company can face. Decision making under uncertainty. Most significant decisions made in today's complex environment are formulated under a state of uncertainty. Conditions of uncertainty exist when the future environment is unpredictable and everything is in a state of flux. The decision maker is not aware of all available alternatives, the risk associated with each, and the consequences of each alternative or their probabilities. So it is an environment of uncertainty where you cannot even assign the probability. But there are 3 ways, or there are several modern techniques to improve the quality of decision making under uncertainty. Few of them are risk analysis, decision tree, and utility preference theory. Risk analysis. What is this risk analysis comprises of? Managers who follow this approach analyze the size and nature of the risk involved in choosing a particular course of action. So, for example, while launching a new product, a manager has to really do a careful analysis of the cost of launching the product, its production cost, its any capital investment required, the price that can be set for the product, the potential market size, and what percent of total market it will represent. All these data he has to go through carefully in order to analyze the risk associated with this product. So that is a comprehensive risk analysis. Next is decision tree. So these are considered to be one of the best ways to analyze a decision. A decision tree approach involves a graphic representation of alternative courses of action and the possible outcomes and risks associated with each action. So what is a decision tree? It is a flow chart like structure in which each internal node represents a test on an attribute, whether of for example a coin flips, so it comes heads or tails. So let's say flip a coin, head, tail. Now second flip, head, tail. Second flip here, head, tail. So it will branch out like a tree. So the decision and the probability can be calculated accordingly. See, this is kind of an example I have given here. Weather, so it can be sunny, it can be cloudy, it can be rainy. Now if it is sunny, how much would be humidity? High, normal. So high, I don't want to go out. Normal, yes, I want to go. Weather is cloudy, yes, I want to go out. Is rainy? If it is windy, if it is strongly windy, then no. If it is weak and it is breezy, then yes, I would go out. So this is sort of a decision tree analysis, whether you want to go out or not. Utility theory or preference theory. This is another approach to decision making under conditions of uncertainty. This approach is based on the notion that individual attributes towards risk vary. Some individuals are willing to take only smaller risks. So they are known as risk averters. So they do not want to assume a lot of risk. Then there are people who want to assume who can assume risk like anything. So these are also known as gamblers. Statistical probabilities associated with various courses of actions are based on the assumption that decision makers will follow them. So now what will happen? See, in case if you study, what is your probability of failing is 30%, passing is 70%. But if you only play, then failing is 80% and passing is 20%. If I give a total value of 100 to it, then the probability would be 100 into 3 of failing and 100 into 0.7 of passing. So then if I add it up, so 7 minus 3 gives me 4. And here the same way I get 6. So here the two options are study and play. In this case, the utility option study has a much higher utility value of decision maker than to play. So 4 is the utility. So hence you should go in for this decision rather than -6 decision. So what is utility? Summation of probability into value. So this way we calculate the entire utility of a project, whether we should go about it or we should not pursue it. Now we come to group versus individual decision making. What is individual decision making? When one person takes the decision in the organization. And group decision making, when there are a group of people together takes decision. Now, as it looks so simple as individual versus group decision making, it is the most challenging question in front of the organizations. So discussing the situations under which group decision making is better than the individual decision making is one of the most complex issues in the business. So let us see what are the pros and cons of individual decision making. If an organization goes for an individual decision making, that the top manager takes all the decisions, it is typically faster than group decision making. Also, best individuals in the group usually outperforms the group. So any person who is literally very sharp and he can come up with that idea, and individual decision making can take place, and that person who is taking the decision is going to get promoted, and he would outperform the other people. Accountability is easier to determine. Now, whoever takes a decision is also responsible for the decision. Hence, accountability can be established easily. What are the consequences? What are the not so good part about individual decision making? That one person has some limitation. So he can only take few decisions because of his limited ideas. So he has got fewer ideas than the group. Group can have varied ideas. Identifying the individual can be challenging. So one person who will take the decision on the behalf of the department or the group is very difficult. So the manager has to really look into it and has to know that person who can take those decisions quickly. Possible to put off making decisions if left alone to do it. So if because the person is going to assume so much of responsibility, maybe the people would not like to take the decisions easily, because that would put them that can put them in any challenging situation. So it actually delays decision making also, in the sense that that person who is going to be responsible for this entire decision may not take the decision or delay the decision. Now we come to group decision making. What are the positives of group decision making? Diversity of ideas and piggyback on others' ideas. So many a times you don't have an idea when you enter a meeting, but somebody said something and it clicked to you that, oh, this can further be, this idea can be developed and we can have something more. So so diversity of ideas can be accumulated if you are taking group decisions. Then greater commitment to ideas. So if people take certain decisions on the basis of their discussions, they feel more attached to it, and so the commitment is much higher. Then interaction can be fun and serves as team building tasks. When everybody would be discussing things, and there would be an amicable environment, there would be more interactions, people would be enjoy working around and tossing certain ideas, then it is a healthy environment for the organization. But this group decision making takes longer time. Why? Because people, 6 or 7 or 8 people collecting together, they would be finding out one time to come at the same platform with the same set of mind. It's going to take time, whereas if one person has to take the decision, he'll take the decision and would be through with it. Then group dynamics such as groupthink can occur. We'll do groupthink in later slides, but groupthink is something that one people thinks in a particular way and everybody starts thinking in the similar fashion. There is a very good example here that I heard a story of a few monkeys, that there were 6 monkeys who were kept in a room and they could not go anywhere. They were fed with the food, but on the fan there were tied 10 bananas every day, and there was a ladder. So once one monkey wanted to go up to the ladder, he was electrocuted. So some electric currents were given to him through the ladder, and he came back. So then later on he never attempted to just take those bananas. That happened with all 6 people. They had their experience, their own hands-on experience, and they never tried. For whatever days they were there, they never tried to take those bananas on the fan, which were replaced every day. They were fresh, they were good, but since they were electrocuted, so they never wanted to touch the bananas. Now one monkey was taken away from this group and a new monkey was introduced. So this monkey, when he saw the bananas, he wanted to go up, and these 5 monkeys, they pulled him back. So he could not go up to the ladder so that he could be electrocuted. So he thought that, oh, I am doing something which is not good. So he was not electrocuted, but he never attempted to go up. Then the second monkey was changed and a new monkey came. He also attempted, but the entire group stopped him. So gradually all the monkeys, the old monkeys who were electrocuted, were changed. Now these 6 monkeys were new, but their group actually pulled them back from the ladder and they didn't let him go. So they didn't know, all 6 of them didn't know what happens if we go up to take the bananas. But they never let anybody else go up there. So they didn't have the information. So their group thought that it is not good. They didn't question it. They didn't think about it, but they just followed it. So this is what is known as groupthink. So a group actually paralyzes your thinking as well many a times. So this has to be avoided. Then social loafing. So because there would be so many interactions, and at the end of the day we are human beings, so people would tend to loaf around. So people, and because there are no responsibilities attached to one single person, so everybody would be take the decision, and the responsibility is divided among everybody. So it's harder to identify the responsibility for the decision in the group decision making. So these were the pros and cons of individual and group decision making. Now, what are the basic differences? The speed of decision making. We have already discussed. Group decisions would be a little slower than the individual decisions. Knowledge required to make decision. So in case of group, you have more knowledge and you can foresee solutions to the problems better. Whereas in individuals, unless you are an expert of the subjects, you cannot generate such knowledge and ideas like group discussions. Need for complete decision. So because an effective group contains roles which monitor both the decision making process and completeness of the decision, groups tend to produce more complete and feasible solutions. Whereas an individual has certain limitations, so an experienced and knowledgeable individual can make complete and feasible decisions, especially where they have confronted similar decisions in the past. Where exposure is not needed, then better decisions tend to be made by the groups. So expertise is required in case of individual decision making. If that expertise is not there, then group will take better and complete decisions. Then importance of decision for organization. A group making an important decision may well be subject to phenomena of risky shift, and decisions may well be riskier than the management may accept. Whereas in case of individuals, it is easier for an individual to be held accountable. So because it is importance for the individual, because he would be held responsible, so he would take careful decisions. Whereas importance of decision gets diluted in case of group decision making, because one individual cannot be held responsible and everybody will face the consequences. Need for commitment to propose solution. So groups, especially those working collaboratively, will tend to gain commitment to their decision because all group members have been involved. Whereas an individual will have to work very hard to gain the commitment of others to the decision they have made. Without involvements in the decision making process, commitment is uncertain. So people would feel more committed when they have taken the decisions collectively. Whereas if somebody else has taken decision on their behalf, they do not feel that much committed to the decision. So this was the difference between group and individual decision making. Now we come to techniques of group decision making. So various techniques have been developed in the area of decision making, which have made the decision making process more rational and scientific. So efforts have been made by social scientists to develop strategies to make group decision making more and more effective. Some of the techniques of group decision making are Delphi technique, nominal group technique, brainstorming technique, dialectic decisions, decision tree, meetings, consensus, fishbowling. And then these are marginal cost, cost benefit, operations research, linear programming. These are all the various other techniques to arrive at a rational solution. And then committees, meetings and command meetings. Let us discuss all. The first is the Delphi technique. What is Delphi technique? So in this, the group members never meet face to face. Replies of all the members to the questionnaires are summarized and feedback to them are sent for review. They are asked to make the decisions again in view of additional information, and this process is repeated until a satisfactory decision is made. This technique is mostly used for decisions relating to demand forecast, project market trends, identify future problems, predict the future state of finances and production, etc. So first round, you analyze the results based on the given understanding, then feedback. So then this feedback is given and another round and analysis is done, and then people send their responses, feedback is prepared, and then the third round happens till the decision is made. So generally Delphi techniques takes a lot of time. Nominal group technique. Group members have minimal interaction prior to making a decision. So the steps are, the group members are brought together and presented with a problem. Members develop the solutions independently and write them on the cards. They share their ideas with each other in a structured format. Then members ask questions just to get clarification during a brief session. Group members individually select the best alternative and inform through a secret ballot. The group decision is announced. So everyone writes their solution on the cards. Then all the cards are displayed, they are being discussed, and then a voting happens, and whichever is the best decision that is being chosen, which gets the majority of votes. So that's how a nominal group decision takes place. Brainstorming technique. So this technique is used to encourage creative thinking in groups of around 8 members. Brainstorming क्या होता है? When you are actually bringing out all the ideas, and then people are asking questions, and so there is a lot of discussion happening. So that's brainstorming. So it follows these steps, like generate as many ideas as possible. So be creative, freewheeling and imaginative. Build upon, extend or combine earlier ideas. Withhold criticism of others' ideas. So you have to welcome all the ideas. You have to receive them with open minds, and you can add on to the other ideas. But refrain from criticizing, because that dissociates a person or demotivates a person. The success of this technique depends upon the members' ability to listen to each other. We hardly listen to each other, and we believe in talking only. So listening is an art. So in this brainstorming technique, you have to listen to others, then use this interaction as a stimulus to spark new ideas, and feel free to express them. And then once you've heard them, and then you can come up with your own ideas, and because you have heard others, so they'll also listen to you. Further, even the idiotic and impracticable ideas should also be encouraged. Why? Because many a times out of box thinking comes like this only. More number of ideas should be encouraged, so that eventually higher quality ideas would be generated. So this is what is the brainstorming technique. Then dialectic decision methods. This method ensures generation of alternatives, seriously detailed discussion on each of the alternatives, and selecting the alternative or developing a new alternative. So what happens when there are times when the discussions remain incomplete, or analysis is made quickly, or some group members are discouraged to participate in the group decision making. So all these things will not be there when we would be going by dialectic decision making. So people would come, and they will discuss their ideas, would discuss all the alternatives, and select an alternative amicably. So this is generally what happens in most of the group decision making. Decision tree. So this is one more technique of group decision making also, that you keep making a tree, that if this will happen, then what would be the alternative. So let us say one thing would lead to ABC, and then A will have ABC, B will have ABC, C will have ABC, and so on. So this way you are actually making a flow chart or diagram to later understand how the discussion went on in the meeting. So these are the solutions generated in the decision making process. Each of these alternative decisions is evaluated before ranking the solution. The decision tree is a model in the form of a graphic tool that charts the steps to consider in evaluating each alternative solution in the decision making. We have seen that in our previous slides. Meetings. The very fact that a group has to take decision requires meeting of group members. Traditional methods to take decision in a meeting requires placing the problem before the members, inviting their views thereupon, and opting the solution that is supported by majority of members. However, the style of meetings can vary enormously, from informal to formal, from controlled to free, from impersonal to personal. Whatever is the style, it is the leader or chairperson who can ensure that the meeting achieves its objectives. Generally, command meetings. What are command meetings? A meeting between boss and subordinate. Are highly controlled, where the purpose of meeting is conveying of message from the boss to subordinate rather than seeking solution by the participant. The participants of such meeting are not supposed to exceed their so-called limits, so they would only speak when they are asked to. This can be termed as autocratic style of meeting. So we'll do that command meetings later on. Consensus mapping. So this is yet another technique of group decision making, and in this technique an attempt is made to arrive at a decision by pooling the ideas together generated by several task subgroups. It begins with the developing of ideas. The ideas so generated by the task groups are developed and narrowed in smaller number of ideas. Then first you pool all the ideas, then you take out which are infeasible ones, then all ideas are consolidated into a representative structure known as straw man map for all the ideas generated by the subgroups. Then straw man map is further narrowed down to arrive at a mutually acceptable solution. Now from the straw man map, you would find out the best alternative. So consensus mapping technique is found best suited for problems that are multi-dimensional and have interconnected relationships and involve many sequential steps in problem solving. So in that case, first taking out all the ideas and then keep narrowing it down till you get one solution, that is known as consensus mapping. Fish bowling technique. Now this is a very interesting technique, and this is for the groups that are very aggressive. So and people do not want to listen to each other. So in this case, what happens is the decision making group of experts is seated around in a circle with a single chair in the center of the circle. One member of the group or the group leader is invited to sit in the center chair and give his views about the problem and his ideas about the solution of the problem. Now the other group members can ask him questions, but there is no irrelevant discussion or crosstalk. So people will not argue with each other, they would just listen to him and they can ask him questions on his idea so that he can convey better that what is he thinking about it. Once the member in the center chair has finished talking and his viewpoint is fully understood, he leaves the center and joins the group in the circle. Then the second member is called upon to sit in the center chair and offer his ideas and opinions in the light of the views expressed earlier. So everyone gets the chance to speak, and then with the consensus you can find out one best possible solution. Committees and committee meetings. So what are committees? So a committee is a group appointed by parent organization which meets to investigate a problem and later to formulate its report and recommendations. So what does a committee do? It is a group of people who are being invited to see one problem, and they have to submit the report and recommendations as well. There are various kinds of committees: standing committees, executive committees, advisory committees, ad hoc committees, and so on. Each of them has the term of reference well laid out. A standing committee is a permanent committee empowered and entrusted to make management decisions. Its members may periodically change or rotate as per the constitution adopted by the organization. Similarly, an advisory committee consists of experts in a particular field or people deemed to be qualified or experienced enough to advise the organization in crucial decision making. Such a committee is generally elected from among us the members of an organization at an annual general meeting. Its powers are laid down by a parent body to which it is supposed to report periodically. Its functions relate to the broad organizational goals. An ad hoc committee is constituted for a particular purpose. After the fulfillment, it is dissolved. So all these are the committees, and committee meetings takes place, and group decision making happens in such meetings. Now we come to another way of decision making, and that is groupthink and group shift. I told you the monkey story in groupthink. Let us confirm to it what it is saying. Groupthink is a phenomenon related to norms. It relates to the situations in which group pressures for conformity. You remember the monkeys? So there was pressure on the new monkey to conform to the group norms. Deter the group from critically examining unusual, minority or unpopular views. So the new monkey's view that he could go up and have the banana was demotivated. Groupthink has been called a disease that attacks many groups and can dramatically hinder their performance. The unwritten laws of groups working under the pressure of groupthink are conformity and an illusion of unanimity. So you think that it is a unanimous decision, but it might be that there are certain people who are influencing the entire group, and people do not want to take decisions. Then we come to group shift. In the group shift, it is a phenomena in which group members tend to exaggerate the initial positions they held. In some situations, it has been observed caution dominates and there is conservative shift. It can also be regarded as a special case of groupthink. So what happens in group shift? So the group members tends to exaggerate everything, and they dominate in a manner that they are not ready to shift from their mindsets, and hence it is a kind of a groupthink only. Command meetings. We have also discussed this previously. What are command meetings? Between subordinates and bosses. So it is used to describe a meeting between a manager and his subordinates. It was first used and developed by Wilfred Brown, the former chairman of Glacial Metal Company. Here the element of corporate responsibility, that is the very life or essence of committee meetings, is missing. So there is no collaborative decision making. It is the person, the boss, who would be taking the decisions. In a command meeting, the manager alone is responsible for decisions and the subordinates are obliged to give him the benefit of their opinion. But then in his context, the term industrial democracy loses its meaning. Now we come to other decision making techniques. So these are more technical in nature. This technique is marginal costing. You know what does marginal means? So cost of that extra unit. So it is under if the additional revenue from additional cost is compared. The profits are maximum at the level where marginal cost results from the addition of one more unit is equal to marginal revenue. In other words, profits are maximum where marginal cost is equal to marginal revenue. Break-even analysis is the modification of this technique, which tells the management the point of production where there are no profits and no losses. So this is a technique of decision making when you want to add certain things in your product line. So whether your marginal cost, so because you've spent your certain fixed costs in the plant or machinery, but you would be seeing the marginal cost of introducing or producing another unit, and what are you getting the price for. So if your the price is higher than the marginal cost, you tend to have a gain. Cost benefit analysis. It is a technique for choosing from among alternatives to identify a preferred choice when objectives are less specific. It is used to compare alternatives where the optimum solution cannot be conveniently reduced to monetary terms. So we'll see the cost and benefit analysis, that how many are the costs and what is our benefit. So it may not always be in quantitative terms, but may also be in qualitative terms. And then we check out that whether we should be taking that decision. Operations research. It involves scientific analysis of decision problems, and it facilitates decision making by supplying quantitative information to the decision maker. The object of operations research is to provide the managers with scientific basis of solving organizational problems involving the interaction of components. It involves the construction and testing of model. Several techniques of operations research have been developed, like probability theory, games theory, queuing theory, network analysis, and so on. So these are the mathematical ways or scientific ways to find out the decisions. Linear programming. It is a technique devised for determining the optimum combination of limited sources to achieve a given objective. So it is based on the assumption that there exists a linear relationship between variables and that the limits of variations could be ascertained. It is very helpful where input data can be quantified and objectives are subject to definite measurement. So we saw in decision under certainty that we could use linear programming as our decision making technique. Now, so there are various decision making models, and let us see when should we use those models. I am just giving you just an information to you, though they cannot be asked in particular, like this is bounded rationality, this is an important technique, but I am just mentioning them here. The first is the rational decision making model, that you would act rationally all the time. So when this model is used, when information on alternatives can be gathered and quantified, the decision is important and you are trying to maximize your outcome, then you will undertake the rational decision making. But a manager is always faced with some limitations. So he has certain limitations and he cannot always be rational. So there can be pressure, there can be some specific problems in the environment. So he can only act boundedly with those rationally, but with under the given situations. So when it is used, the minimum criteria are clear. When you do not have, or you are not willing to invest much time to make the decision, his decisions, he has got time limitation, for example. So rational decision, if he has to take, he has to maybe invest his lot of time on certain decision, but he does not have that much time. So he take a decision because he is bounded by time, and if he has to pay some cost for it, then it's okay. Management says then it is fine, that you have to prioritize what you want. So you are not trying to maximize your outcome. So outcome may not be maximized, but you save time and you put it somewhere else. Then intuitive decision making. When would you make intuitive decision making? When the environment is highly unpredictable and then you go by your intuitions. When the goals are unclear, there is time pressure and analysis paralysis would be costly. Then you have experience with the problem and then you know what is going to happen. Then the last is creative decision making model. When you would find out various options is because you have time to find out those decisions. The solutions to the problems are not very clear and you have to find out the new solutions in order to cure the problem. So new solutions need to be generated and then you also have time to do that. Then you should go in for a creative decision making model. So this was all about our decision making techniques, models, and the decision making at various levels and in different environments. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening.